Okay, starting this week's content mastery, chapter 17, explain and discuss the process of communication. So we kind of broke down communication into two parts. You have the sender, you have the receiver, and then furthermore, what's the sender trying to do? Well, they're trying to formulate a message. So they're trying to encode a message somehow. By taking whatever idea they have in their head, what other goals they have, and formulating that either into words, so verbal communication or nonverbal communication. They're going to send that across some kind of channel, some kind of medium, whether that's a text, whether that's, face-to-face, talking to them, a presentation, whatever. Lots of different channels to send it through. And then that's going to reach the receiver as it goes through whatever noise is there. Noise could be physical, actual noise, or it could be, biases, stuff like that causes you to be distracted. The noise is kind of a factor that you can only control to a certain degree. And then at the end, it's going to reach the sender, and they're going to decode that message and get with it from their interpretation of what it is. So that's the process of communication. And the idea is to, whatever message is on this side, let's try to get it to this, this side as intact as possible and as clear as possible. It's very important by managers in the workplace because managers mostly just communicate. Like that's what managers are doing. Managers are able to accomplish things by communicating things for the most part. I know, my dad works as a manager at VistaBeam and, kind of one of the head managers. So, his job is like almost purely communication. I feel like as you get further up the ladder, it becomes more and more communication because his job every day is to go around and, talk to each of the teams, see where they're at, discuss the goals that they want to get to, discuss the problems that they have, work through those problems, try to, coordinate people to get those problems. All that is done through communication. All that is done through talking. All that is done through, having conversations with people. So it's very important to the workplace because that's what managers do. Formal and informal communications are important. So what are the difference between those? Formal, that could be like a memo, an email, maybe even like a Slack announcement might be formal, depending on your definition of formal and informal. Informal might be just like, hey, you go up to somebody and you're just like, hey, how are you doing on that? Hey, we kind of need to get this done. Usually just kind of face to face, just quick say something. Maybe you send them a quick text, a quick message. Nothing like crazy. And the importance of those two. Both of them are important because informal conversation definitely has an effect on the company. Even if it's something very casual, people are going to take those casual conversations, and because you're the manager, they're going to place a certain level of importance on them, and they're going to take them kind of seriously. And then, formal communications are obviously very important because this is setting in stone. What are we going to be doing? And formal communication is very important in an organization because it's important that people know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and know exactly what's going on, know what's changing. So both these types of communications have an impact on the organization. We kind of talked about, I think this kind of fits in with this, talking about, things that go down through the grapevine or things that are said like through announcements that everybody can view publicly. There's disadvantages to, having things completely informal and just having them communicate along because things can get distorted and, people can change things based on their, their own kind of viewpoints and opinions, and it can be kind of slippery slope. But sometimes that's a really easy, kind of convenient way to get things communicated, whereas formal announcements where everything's kind of outlined, that can oftentimes be a way to mitigate some of that human error there. And the importance of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is extremely important because I did a little like slight research about nonverbal communication, and 55% of communication is nonverbal, and only 7% of the communication is actually the words that you are saying, which I don't know where they're getting those numbers from, but it does make sense, because just a perfect example is a certain hello. You could say the word hi. You could say hey. You could say, hi, or hi. You know, all those versions of the simplest greeting of hi all communicate something differently, and the context also communicates something differently, you know? Because if there's a chance that you're mad at somebody and you communicate slightly that you're mad at them, they're going to assume you're mad at them because, they're already kind of expecting that. So they're going to be, you'd have to really go out of your way to show that you're not mad to even do that. And even then that might not even communicate. So that's just a perfect example of how, the word hi has the word hi just doesn't really indicate anything in that scenario, it's kind of, saying hi, greeting somebody in itself, you're not really communicating anything, but the way you say it has a big impact on what you're communicating. You're conveying your emotions to that person. And usually that's oftentimes the purpose of certain kinds of interactions is just to communicate, friendliness, hey, how are you doing? That's a communication of like friendliness. Hey man, it's been a while. How are you doing? That's just a communication of, just being friendly, just being, sociable, just being, having interaction. But, nonverbal communication, like what we talked about with the micro expressions, we have all these micro expressions that communicate things that we're really feeling and we don't even know, that tell us whether we're lying or tell us, how we're feeling. Nonverbal communication is very important because, for one, we can, send messages purposefully with nonverbal communication. It's difficult to send certain messages purposely, being sarcastic, being funny, being, coy. Or we can sometimes send them, or more oftentimes we send nonverbal communications not on purpose. And it's really important because it really shows more authenticity in what you're saying because, people are able to really see how you feel about something when it's face to face. And, specifically what role does this play in the communication process? If we look back to our kind of model of the communication process where you have the sender, you have the receiver, all that nonverbal communication, that's part of the message. Part of the message is the verbal and nonverbal combined into one, and that creates the message. If you just have the verbal, if you just have the straight words, say you're in a text message, a lot of that context is going to be missing and is going to have to be substituted for additional context, such as, directly stating how you feel or emojis or, a little bit more explanation because so much of that is gone and it's hard to really communicate some of those things non-verbally. And, I think they've gotten a little bit better with texting, with adding a lot of different ways to show how you're feeling. There's ways to react to text messages and there's ways to show emojis for things. And there's certain cues you can send. So I think people have gotten pretty good, but there is always going to be a level of discommunication with nonverbal. I remember I was texting somebody the other day and I was making a kind of an aggressive joke, but I thought it was clear I was joking. And, where they're like, are you mad at me? I was like, no, of course not. I'm just messing around. And it was funny because they said, maybe it was just the tone of your voice, which was, I found comical because I was texting them. So obviously I had no tone of voice. Whatever tone of voice I had was just read by them. But anyway, how might a manager utilize this to become more effective in communicating? So I think it's important to be self-aware of, your different nonverbal communication things that you send to people. I'm trying to think of, some of the things that I might do that might, send a wrong message to people. I tend to be, I tend to get quiet and not say anything when I'm feeling any kind of emotional charge towards something. And this can go towards making people think I'm angry at them, when in reality I'm just trying to logically process everything that's going on and make the best decision, but I don't know how to do that because right now I feel like I'm being almost emotionally hijacked. So I'll just shut down and just kind of give myself time to think and make the right decision. But sometimes that can come off as are you pissed off? What's going on? So I think it's really important for managers to become aware of, their own roles, and figure out ways around that, so that way when you're communicating with somebody, you're effectively communicating, how you actually feel, and how you're, you want to make sure that you're effectively communicating what you want to communicate, not something that is sent indirectly. And I personally think the best way to do this is just to be very, very honest and open as a manager. Just, honestly be honest and direct with people. Don't try to, keep things hidden. If somebody's not doing something the way that you want them to, then just say, hey, I really like what you're doing here, here, and here, but right here, this is an area we need to work on. This is why. Nothing personal. I like you as a person, but this is what we need to fix. So I think, that's the way to utilize to become more effective, is to just be honest, be authentic, and try to make sure that, everything's out in the air, and they don't have to rely on your nonverbal cues. So I think that's going to wrap up today's discussion. It got a little bit long somehow, even though there wasn't really that much in this one. But I just find this to be kind of an interesting topic. So